Hello, welcome to the Alchemists Inkwell.
This is your spiritual podcast for grounded people.
I'm Emily.
And I'm KristaLyn. And that was a heck of a weekend.
We're just gonna decompress a little bit. We know that you're hearing this on Thursday or later, but the last weekend was that Uranus series of Uranus conjunctions, is how I'm gonna call it.
Mhm.
Uranus fucking around.
Uranusing.
Yeah, all over the place. So much Uranusing.
Everything. Yeah, so
Everything was
much.
being Uranused. We
We
just
were
made
all
it every part of speech, I'm pretty sure.
uranized. We were all uranized.
Yeah. It was a lot. Again, we talked about this on last week's episode, which, by the way, sorry, it posted weird.
Yeah,
Don't
speaking of
know what,
Uranus.
don't know what Uranus was doing with that. So if you didn't hear last week's episode and you want to get all the details, please go back and listen to it. It is posted properly now.
Well,
I don't know why it didn't, but here we are.
Funny that it's posting properly on the day that the Uranus-Mars conjunction happens, so that people are going to get alerted of it today,
Right.
when they might need to hear it most. Today, the day we're recording it, of course.
Yeah.
We are speaking to future ourselves and future you from this
Future
perspective.
stuff.
But we hope it was helpful. Let us know in the comments of whatever you're listening to or watching this on, like, what happened? How did it go for you? Did you get, like Emily did, a bunch of new activations and ideas and inspirations? Or like in my life,
it was weird.
In my life, it happened in my seventh house. So a lot of it circled around my partnerships. So like my husband and, Emily, you're considered in my seventh house because you're a business partner of mine. So a lot of things were happening around you. And that's where my focus was, with you and with Dan and all these things, and a lot of things moving quickly and a lot of progress happening that takes me along with it, especially in the myself and Dan situations, which I can't announce yet, but I will be able to announce at one point, which is going to be really exciting. And I could go into the way of understanding if it's going to be exciting or if it's going to be like radical, world changing, didn't see that coming kind of situation. Basically, if Uranus is aspecting something well in your chart, it's likely to be more surprising. If it's aspecting something in a more challenging way, it's likely to be a more challenging situation. So you can check that for yourselves and then say, oh, wow, this did happen in this way, and let us know, because that's just really cool to always watch the astrology come down into form. It's a neat thing.
I actually don't know where Uranus is on my chart, but like it must be fine, because this weekend was a lot of like very big ahas, I guess, where I felt very stagnant for a while. I don't know. It's been very interesting to see how it came up.
We had been picking up on that for a while. Like there was this wall of progress. And your Uranus is where mine is too. It hangs out for a long time. So you're going through a Uranus trine as well.
Of course. We got this. I don't know if we've ever talked about it on here, but KristaLyn and I, our charts like mirror each other in a weird way.
We have amazing synastry. It's fantastic.
But yeah, please tell us how this past weekend went for you. Was it challenging? Did big things happen? Were there ahas? Are you all of a sudden making massive life changes? Yes to all of those things. That's alignment. That's very much what we had seen coming up. That's very much what we thought was going to happen. And that's very much what we're kind of seeing in the news. That's kind of what we're seeing as far as like in our personal relationships and friendships. Lots of big shifts, lots of renewed motivation to do new things. Guess that's the way my guides want me to say that. So that's how I'm going to say it. I don't know how you can have renewed motivation to do new things, but
I mean, you can. Like, I feel like doing something new today. I haven't felt like doing something new for a long time. I've just been in my own thing. So yeah, getting you out of your rut.
Yeah, you're definitely, it's a rut kicker.
It's a rut ruiner.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was really big, really interesting. It's been interesting to watch. So the biggest thing we want to say is like honor how you're feeling with it, for sure.
Yeah.
It was a big one. It was a doozy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was like the combination of it lasting over a couple of days with different aspects coming into it really did. It was a unique situation, like I think the Uranus node situation is a 12-year cycle. Mars will do it I don't know it off the top of my head, but every year and a half-ish or a couple of years, but all three of them coming together at the same time in Taurus, that's quite a thing. That's quite a thing. So,
right. Yeah, it's really interesting. Also, the energy just feels, it's like even watching the wave coming.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a wave over there. It's getting a little, maybe we should move our, blanket here. Actually, we should probably leave the beach. Oh, never mind. It's just going to hit us. It's like that kind of energy when I look at it. Anyway, that's what it looks like. Here's my analogy.
That's a fantastic analogy, because when you do see a wave coming and you know it's going to hit you, running from it actually is the not best idea to choose. It's diving into it that ends up giving you the best chance of navigating it. So I think that's a really great metaphor for life right now, just diving into the wave.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, if you can view yourself from an external perspective, like when you have a feeling, witness the feeling. Oh, how is this making me feel in my body? How is this making me feel, how is this, where is this coming up from? Like, oh, I can sit here and I can watch myself feel this and see how I'm processing it. It's like almost narrating your stuff. Is very important if you can witness the decisions you're making in that way too. Of okay, I made this decision. Why did I make this decision? Let's just be analytical about it. It's actually a good place to be.
Yeah. And there might be some frustration coming along with this, because again, Mars is involved. So the fact that some of the feelings might be, I don't know why I'm frustrated, but I'm frustrated. If you can witness that, I know over the weekend, I had a lot of frustration and I couldn't pinpoint where it was coming from. So I actually sat down and had a moment with myself and just said, okay, clearly you need to feel this, whether we can put a name or a source to it or not. It's a feeling that needs to be felt. So we're just going to lean into this for the next 10 minutes, feel it. If we get some indicators as to what it is, we'll work on that. But right now I can't see past it. So I'm going to feel it. And it's okay to just kind of give yourself that permission to not even assign meaning to it until after you've processed it and allowed yourself to feel it. Sometimes we can try to assign meaning, and it, taken to the exaggerated degree, which Uranus will become a form of bypassing. Instead of feeling the feeling, I'm going to put labels on it and then file it away so I don't have to deal with it. But it's allowing yourself to understand why the feeling is there. So you give yourself permission to feel it and then can do something with it moving forward. It's subtle, but it's a really neat process.
Yeah. It's relieving.
Yes, it is.
So we have a fun full moon coming up that we're going to talk about.
Let's head out of Uranus stuff into the full moon in Aquarius. Huzzah.
Yeah, it's a cool full moon though. When I look at the energy of it, it feels very, I know it's Aquarius, but it feels very blue. That's the first thing I could feel. I was like, oh, you feel like an ocean. You're blue and washy.
Yeah. And in modern astrology, Uranus traits are very much in agreement with Aquarian traits. So it's kind of like the feeling you had in transit may be getting released during this. If you feel the way that Uranus is the disruptor for the greater good kind of situation, what kind of things now for your greatest good and your highest good are you releasing? Are you understanding and seeing? The one thing I love about the full moon that I don't think gets acknowledged enough when we talk about releasing is it's after the full moon that the releasing begins, right? During the full moon, the moon is full. So you've actually filled your cup, preparing to pour it out. At the full moon, you're getting this higher perspective. You've climbed the mountain and now you're at the top. You can see how far you've come. You can see where you want to go. Now you get to decide, do you shed some weight on your way down so that the climb or the descent is easier? And that's kind of one of the ways that I would love for people to kind of imagine when they're thinking about, oh, new moon manifesting, full moon shedding. Yes. And let's get into how deep this is and what this actually means, because you can understand it and really align with the energy and really move with it if you know what it means for you. So with this full moon, we are, understanding the feelings that have been coming up and then deciding how useful is this to me? Because another thing about Aquarius is, though it's Aquarius, it's an air sign. So we have this air intellectual analytical quality saying, what's important about this? What does the whole strategy look like? I like to think of Aquarius as the strategist, but you can also think about it as you're playing a board game. You can see the game, you can see the pieces. And given that, you can see which moves are most effective for the pieces to make in the long term. So Aquarius being the fixed air sign, it's a very unique combination of energy that allows for that to happen. So that's one of the main things we're coming into. And leading up to this, we do have two pretty interesting aspects. One being a very interesting combo of Venus trine Neptune, while Mars is squaring Saturn. So the Mars square Saturn is like conflict, feeling restricted, but wanting to move forward. And it's like someone holding you back when you're trying to run, that kind of energy. But Venus alternatively trine Neptune is like, I'm in my own daydream. I'm like tuning things out today. And you have this almost spa vacation like energy with the frustration and the restriction coming around. So it's really, the way I put it together is thinking about what is the ideal that you're going for and how can you actively start strategizing towards it? Because, by the way, Saturn is the ruler of Aquarius from traditional astrology. So we're still pulling in that energy of this moon that's coming up by saying, how does this work? And I can see something coming up for you. So I'm going to take
My guides just called it bypassing on purpose. And I think that that's just so dead on, of being like, I know I want to feel those things, but I'm not going to, because I'm going to put my energy over here. It's like literally bypassing. It was just really hilarious. They were like, it's bypassing on purpose. And they just sat there and like did me like say it. It's like, okay.
That's really funny, because when I recorded the scripts for this week over the weekend. So I already have this one filmed and it will release on the 7th. And in that, Venus is like, I'm sorry, the planet you've solicited can't come to the phone right now. I'm taking a mental health day. Like, so look for that one.
That's on purpose. It's great.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Sorry, that was really funny.
No, that's really great confirmation. I love it.
This is what it is. Do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So even though you've got a lot on your plate, this is your time to say, I can handle this. But right now, I'm going to make sure that I have the mental space to prepare myself to handle whatever's coming up. So again, just saying, usually you would say, why put off till tomorrow what you can do today? But if it doesn't have to get done today, you can take a nap. Have a nap. It's okay.
Right.
Yeah, I really like that. And then of course, on the 9th, Venus is going to be opposite Pluto while the sun reaches the bend of the nodes, that exact halfway point between the eclipse seasons. So this is kind of hearkening back to around December 11th when Venus conjoined Pluto. We're continuing that saga. We're about at the midpoint of that. And so you're thinking about things that might have come up around December 11th. For you, there was a lot going on at that time. We have
that was a cacophony of noise when I
yeah. Well, I mean, believe it or not, the headlines, because I like to look at the headlines for the conjunctions here to see what stories started and what we might be able to anticipate. This was actually when the Supreme Court allowed the first changes to abortion laws to happen in Texas. And Pluto does get an archetype of the things that are not so on the surface. So it unearths a lot of things. And Venus at the time was, I believe, already about to enter her retrograde or in her retrograde. So you have Venus saying relationships, female, femme kind of energy, and Pluto, the things that are not normally brought to light coming out. And so the conjunction would have initiated that kind of process. And now we're at the midpoint of it. So we've come to the full moon kind of situation of that as well. And this also is going to be, Pluto's known as extreme and transformative and all of those things. And so there might be some more debates. There might be more things going on. A lot of tension over situations, since Venus does rule Taurus. And there's a lot of energy in Taurus right now. We might see some more climate related things. We might see some more things regarding cases surrounding SA and that kind of stuff, just because it is a reality of the archetypes of these planets. So I always hesitate to predict things just because where I am, I just get nervous of, if people put too much effort into leaning into that. Don't worry about it. This is an observational thing. Pluto is hyper transpersonal. Venus is bringing it into our awareness, but that doesn't mean it's going to be in your personal life necessarily. It's just something you're going to notice is in the headlines.
I was just going to say, it's one of those things that was the things that were always meant to happen are going to happen. And you're just here to witness whatever those things are. And that's going to be more what you're doing, is witnessing these structural changes that were always going to happen with this, always meant to happen with this. And you're just watching.
And you get to play a part in that. These changes, these events will educate and inform decisions that you choose to make, for sure.
Totally.
So you're not without free will or There's
The
always a
ability
word
to
that I
do
never,
anything.
yeah,
Yeah.
your autonomy is still intact,
Yeah.
which is another thing that Aquarius really likes. So on the 11th, we have the Aquarius full moon.
Yay.
Ta-da for effective segues. So
We're so effective with our segue.
so this coming up, we do have this lunation, which is the moon conjunct Saturn at the time, which is the ruler of Aquarius in traditional astrology and in Hellenistic astrology, which I subscribe to the most. And Saturn at this point is at a really fun thing in its phase called curtailed passage. It's opposite the sun as the moon is. So it's halfway through its retrograde now. It's another poignant moment, like a plot point in the retrograde cycle of it. And at the same time, Saturn is still square Uranus and Mars. So this is kind of like a weakening of structures and conflicting actions and change and like wanting to make some changes, but having to go and like push against your structures in order to do that. Like you're going to have to change something structurally in order to give yourself the freedom to grow.
Mhm.
And I think that that's something important to keep in mind. Again, this is a full moon. The moon makes it very personal. So this is something you might see in the headlines, but you're also going to be noticing in your life. There are some things that feel restricting, aren't letting you be your best self. Remembering that if this is a full moon in Aquarius, that means the sun is in Leo in its domicile. So the sun is like, we need to be all of ourselves. We need to be true to ourselves. We need to like not dim our light for anything, especially during a full moon where the sun is letting the moon take on a fullness of light at the same time. So with this, there's going to be probably some limiting beliefs since Saturn is retrograde, some laws that you set for yourself when you were a kid that just no longer apply. And now you finally feel ready to break that cycle, whether it is generational or just in your own life in a core perspective. And like I said, Saturn or Uranus is doing a lot of pulling in this one. We still have the sun is, of course, also square Uranus and Mars. Neptune, Mars is sextile Neptune and Venus at the same time. Venus is coming, or not sextile Venus. Venus is going into Leo with the sun. So we're looking at leadership and sort of innovation, resting before taking action, and then discerning what that action is going to be and anticipating it a lot and making meaningful connections to take leadership in your relationships and say, this is what I need in order for this to be an equal exchange of energy in our relationship, which is allowed. My partner and I agreed the day we started dating, I was like, this is a co-pilot situation. We're not worried about whose pants are on who. It's like, there's that phrase of like, who wears the pants in the relationship and everybody's got one leg in them or whatever. I always found that very confusing. So I was just like, we're co-pilots. I've got a steering wheel. You've got a steering wheel. The plane flies best when we're working together. Let's not crash. And if we decide we need to go down, we go down together and like land. That's how it will go. So I hope that that's like helpful in whatever capacity it makes sense to our listeners and viewers.
Yeah.
The affirmation is, I'm prepared for anything that is mine. You have
Ooh,
to. Yeah. Right. Because
that's one of my favorite ones I think you've ever done.
Me too. When I came up with that one, I channeled these, given the information. And when I was like, I'm prepared for anything, it sounds a lot like what I said before with the Uranus thing. And then it was like, yeah, that is mine. And you have to be prepared for what's coming for you. Yeah.
That's cool.
Thank you. So take a beat and assess your situation, then refocus on your goals to make sure that your actions are goal oriented and not scattered and not someone else's dreams that you're trying to fulfill for them. Mic drop.
I love that. Good job.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm literally writing it down as we talk because I'm like, that needs to go on the sticky note wall.
Woohoo. I made the sticky note wall. Yay.
For those of you who don't know, I have a sticky note wall. So part of my neurodivergency means I really like to have cluttered spaces that have a lot of information in it. Even growing up, like my childhood bedroom, I would put like mementos from random things, like tack it to the wall because like I prefer seeing that. So like there was a whole wall section of like movie stubs and cups from different restaurants and different like just random shit on the walls because that's how I function. So yeah. I love that. It is going on the sticky note wall right now.
I'm so satisfied with myself right now. You guys don't even understand.
Everyone should have a sticky note wall.
Agreed. Yeah. So that's what I would keep in mind for the full moon. And that's why really understanding how to roll with the punches is kind of important right now, because there is so much up in the air. It's like that when you have a beach ball and you have to keep it off the ground, but you have to be ready for when it comes into your space to be able to bounce it to someone else. There is a teamwork makes the dream work situation with that Venus Neptune trine. But at the same time, there's responsibility for your own part and for what your priorities are in that. Like someone even said, if you wouldn't stay in a relationship that makes you unhappy, why do you stay in work that makes you unhappy? Now, I understand some people have the ability to navigate that and others, but in the ideals,
also in relationships, it's
yeah. So let's talk about the ideal that Neptune brings out with that in an ideal situation, and analyze what is within your realm of influence in your life, because there's going to be something that actually maybe you've been telling yourself you can't, and maybe in this moment you can, with that full moon bringing it up. It may not be as big of a scale as you'd like, or with Uranus, it might be. You might be able to make a big change. So I encourage you to give yourself the credit you deserve with the sun in Leo, and just say, what is serving me? And how is setting myself up to be sustained and to be happy and to have all the things that I need to support myself, setting me up to serve others in a way that makes me a part of this global community and the collective and is fulfilling for me. Because if you're not fulfilled, you're not going to be doing your best with something. You're not going to want to. And if you are fulfilled, you're going to naturally be shining your light everywhere and inspiring people. So it's not as much a responsibility to contribute to the world as it is a responsibility to love and be the light for yourself, which will naturally make the world a better place, just because you rock, and you'll be able to make a huge difference when you're letting yourself express in the fullest potentials.
Genuinely. And on that note too, decide how you're going to feel. Oh no, my sticky note's falling off. Decide how you're going to, my wall is not great for sticky noting. This is me forcing it. Decide how you're going to feel before the full moon happens. What are you going to feel on the full moon? What are you going to feel as you let these things go? You are allowed to decide first. Now, if you don't stick to it, if stuff changes, that's okay, but it totally gives you back some of that power and will help you feel like you're equipped to actually go with the flow of things, to actually navigate these spaces instead of feeling stuck and like, oh no, now all these feelings are coming up. Because that's not what we're going for. Also, on the full moon, this is just advice from my guides that came through as you were talking. I think it would feel really, really nice if you sit down and actually, without attachment, without like big feelings coming up, examine all the areas of your life and decide which ones make you feel the best and which ones make you not feel great. And in those spaces where you're not feeling great, remember, you still have the power to choose a different option. It might not feel that way. You might not know exactly how that looks, but be like, if I chose a different option, what would I want it to look like? And it's an exercise in like asking yourself rhetorical questions, genuinely. Like, what would I want it to look like? If I could just poof, magically make this happen tomorrow, how would I want this to feel? What would I want? How would I want to change this? By examining that, by doing that exercise, and I would literally do it in writing, because again, that's a very powerful activity. Words have huge power and energy. When you do it in your own handwriting, it like multiplies that power and energy like tenfold. It's super, super intense. So if you actually sit down and write that out, it's actually going to show you, without you intentionally doing this, ways you can move those areas of your life that no longer feel good to you. And it's going to give you some of that power back. It's also going to help manifest change in those spaces and those sorts of things. But doing that actual exercise of examining without attachment to how is it going to work? How are you going to get there? What the, blah, 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 blah. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't apply reality to this. This is not what we are doing. It's basically like role play gaming yourself into a new version of yourself is the best way I can describe it.
Honestly. And if you are someone who likes to play around with stuff like that, go on to a D&D character building website and build your ideal character after who you want to be, and just see how that feels, because you're leaning into the fiction of it, which gives you permission to dream big. And then you can realize, oh, this character actually would make choices. I can make choices. Like that's something we have in common. And then you can start making choices that lead you to something you deserve. You deserve it. It's so funny really how many of us are limited by what we don't think we deserve and what we don't think we're allowed to do.
It's one of the biggest disservices that society does its children, like especially in this day and age, especially in like, it's not just American society too. Obviously that's the one we're able to study, but like I've worked with clients all over the world and they all have this in common, is this notion of our society intentionally limits our potential when we're really, really young. It tells us that our imagination is just pretend. It tells us that like we have to, pick one thing we're doing for the rest of our lives and get aligned with like it. There's so many different things that it's like intentionally limiting that potential and like limiting what we allow ourselves to have if we don't, work hard for it, if we don't earn it, all these different things. And shed that stuff, get rid of that, because that is not doing you any sort of service. It's not helping you, and it's making you dream small. And that's not fair.
Yeah.
It's a soapbox of mine. I hate it.
Well, fairness is another thing that comes into play in part in Aquarius as well. So it's very timely.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. This is also on that note too, with talking about like role play gaming and those sort of spaces. It's a great time to throw more stock into fantasy worlds, whether that's in reading, whether that's in, you go back and watch all of the Lord of the Rings movies. By the way, if you're a Lord of the Rings nerd like I am, the Rings of Power is coming out really soon. And I am so excited. Also, if you're again a big nerd, and they announced an Aragon TV show, which is not Lord of the Rings. We're like talking like the Aragon series.
I'm just hoping it does a little bit better than the movies. Yeah.
Well, it's the same guy who's doing the Percy Jackson TV show, and it's on Disney Plus too.
I feel
so
better.
We're gonna be great. But I was really excited by that. I'm just getting hyped for dragons. That's what it is. But whatever it is, if you're gonna throw some energy into fantasy worlds, fantasy places, or just worlds in a different time space. I've been rewatching Bridgerton. It's been great. Those kind of things. I love Bridgerton too. I think we're going to go to the Bridgerton experience in September for our anniversary. We kind of decided on that. And I was like, let's do it, which is right after the ball we go to. So I guess I just need to go dance around in pretty dresses. It's just moral of that story. But yeah, take some time. Like that is that conscious bypassing. That's intentional bypassing by doing those things, reading those books, playing those games, whatever it is. Really, really helpful in this time too, because you're going to learn more from those spaces than you give yourself credit for. And if anything, you can model feelings, you can model experiences. You can even just model play and joy and crafting and magic, or, reading and modeling that type of world and overcoming. I mean, there's so many different things you can do with that in a safe way, which doesn't feel like it has lasting, like real world impact, but will still awaken and get you more in touch with your magical self and how you're going to move forward. Since now we've cleared some of this Uranus stuff and we've got a lot more interesting stuff coming up. And I know that, but over the next like 2-3 months, we got a lot of like up and down energy, but still, this is going to just prepare you for that. It's like you're marinating for the magic that's coming in.
Ooh, marinating magic. I like it. We should say that
at
the end of the episode. Go marinate some magic.
I don't think we need to give ourselves more syllables to say.
Because we do such a good job already. Is that what you're saying?
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. But yeah, also we do have some really fun, exciting announcements that are coming up really soon, specifically for podcast stuff. And then also for, other things as well. But we're trying to marinate in our own magic for those sorts of things as well, which is just really exciting.
Looking forward to some of those things loosening up now that this whole weirdness is passing by.
We've been waiting for a piece of mail for like 4 months, guys.
Yep. We have at first the people that like knew these things were like, oh yeah, by end of May. And we're like, cool, we can start telling people about it. That's not going to be, clickbaity. And now I just feel like we've been just holding on for a long time.
We've just been stringing you along. That being said, though, this is actually something else I wanted to talk about. And I've talked about this on the podcast before too. If you are feeling stuck, if things feel like they are not moving, I highly recommend doing a technique. I call it breadcrumbing myself.
I love this. Yeah.
I just think it's really, really helpful. And it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be expensive. There's ways you can do big and expensive, but it's so, so helpful because it shows you actively that things are moving forward. It shows you not only the passage of time, but that you're doing things and allowing stuff to move forward. So basically, I used to do this with concerts and plays and things like that. You can do it that way. You can just do it with experiences. I mean, you can do it with whatever you want, but basically once I find something every month to look forward to in advance. So right now I have something planned already for September. I have something planned already for October. I have something planned already for November that I'm looking forward to. And what that does is it makes you excited. Even when something finishes, you already are looking ahead to the next thing. And it shows you this energy motion that you actually have. It helps so much with manifesting. Plus, you're having more fun. Plus, it helps with your mental health stuff because you have stuff to look forward to. It's incredibly beneficial. And if that's something that you think would help you, there's so many different things you can do with it. It doesn't just have to be, expensive things or something like that, like a concert. Like obviously there's, if you have health considerations, it can be something as simple as like doing a paint and sip, or you're going to go to the beach on this day and you don't usually do that, or whatever it is that you can do. You can tailor it to yourself, etc. Starting a class, anything like that you can just get excited and stoked about. I cannot tell you how helpful and beneficial this is, and how awakening it is for your magic and your power, and how much it can just really infiltrate your life with like really powerful energy. This is a wonderful time to start doing this if you don't already. Genuinely it is. Especially if you have been feeling blocked for like the last month or so, or if you are also waiting on one piece of mail that was supposed to come in May. Breadcrumb yourself. Give yourself other things to look forward to, because when you have those things, other things fall into place in the meantime, and you're not attached to those things working exactly perfect. You're accepting and allowing those things to come in. That's
I
another
fully
soapbox.
agree with that. No, it's a really good one. I started doing that back in like 2016, where it was like I always had something to look forward to, and I always repeat like 3 things I'm grateful for that day, so that I can recognize like, oh, today's pretty cool. That day's going to be really cool too, but today's pretty cool. And like, I even have like a breakfast that I'll do once a week that I can be excited for weekly. And
I love the breakfast you do once a week.
I know. It's so
I
good.
get excited for Krista's breakfast.
I wish I could say I make it. Don't give me credit where it's not due, you guys. It's purchased. But well, now
it's a treat though. Yeah,
it is a nice treat.
It's also vegan, and my almost vegan heart, just for those of you guys don't know, I'm practically vegan.
Yeah.
I'm vegan with the exception of cheese.
Yeah. I call myself like 98% plant-based.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at. But yeah, like it's as simple as that. And also for thankful fours, which is what I call them, because we do them as a family before we sit down to eat. So my kids will say them, like we'll all share what we're thankful for that day before we eat our food, instead of like saying grace. It's like saying gratitude for the day. Basically, we call them doing our thankful fours. So it's really helpful, even if you want to implement that as a family, and the kids get excited about it. Like they're like, thankful for is this, say mine first. Like that genuinely happens almost every day. And it's cool. And it's cool to see like that perspective of the people that are important to you in your life and what they're thankful for that day too, because that always inspires other thoughts for you of like, oh yeah, that was also something really cool, or that is another thing to be grateful for.
Another way that you can do this is I did a TikTok about it the other day, and it really actually helped me when I got this ping to do the TikTok, and I started doing it for myself more. Narrate your life as though you're telling the story to someone else, and catch up how you've been doing to yourself, and just be like, oh yeah, they've been up to this and this lately, and it's really exciting because this in their lives. And I narrated my life to myself, and I was like, oh wow, I'm making a lot more progress than I'm giving myself credit for. Living day to day feels very slow, but when you recap it, it's like, wow, so much happened. So that can really help.
It makes it more romantic. Like you romanticize your life that way because it feels like it's a story, which it is.
Yep. You are the main character energy in your story.
The healthy main character energy, not the like
the high vibe main character energy.
Yeah, there we go. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, hopefully this episode posts correctly this time. Again, Uranus doing Uranus-ness. Uranizing things.
You're running rampant.
Obviously mess that up. But of course, you can also watch us on YouTube. We'd love to see you there. We're adding some more content in that space pretty soon, and we're so pretty thrilled about it. It's going to be really cool. So please, if you're not on YouTube with us, please go ahead and follow us there. Also, if you want to support the podcast, we appreciate you sharing it with your friends and family, talking about it online, anything like that, or leaving us a review. All of that is really, really helpful, and we appreciate when you all do that. And we have gotten a lot of people who do that, and we just love that. So thank you so much It's a pleasure for us to get to do this. We find it incredibly fun, and we just
Yeah.
appreciate that it is helpful to you all.
Yeah. If you want to put a cheesy grin on our faces, leave a comment, because every time I see those, I'm just like, somebody cares. It's great.
Right. It's the best. We love
It's
it.
warm and fuzzies all over. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. But yes, thank you all so much for being here. Take this full moon energy, run with it, and remember that you have the power to go make some magic. Eh?
I mean,
Okay.
I'm okay with it.
All right. I'm gonna say it was great. It was great. Look
It
at
was
us go. Goodbye.
fantastic. Go us, go you.